Hello and welcome to the Leaders in Cleantech podcast. Each week our host David Hunt speaks to a leading startup CEO, executive or thought leader in the cleantech sector. Focused on the clean energy and clean mobility transitions, each guest shares the highs and lows of their cleantech journey, their industry insights, and their vision and hopes for the future.
Hello, I'm David Hunt, CEO and founder of Hyperion Executive Search and your host for the Leaders in Cleantech podcast. At last, with caution and compliance being followed, live events are back. I shall soon be speaking in Berlin at Eco Summit, but before that, I'll be in Farnborough in the UK at the awesome Fully Charged live outdoor event. I expect many of you are familiar with the All Things Clean Mobility and Energy YouTube channel Fully Charged. If not, you should be. Got some amazing content to check out, 10 years worth in fact. As well as having over 800,000 subscribers and 2 million monthly views, the Fully Charged team have also been running fantastic events in the UK and Austin, Texas. And then COVID unfortunately interrupted that flow. Now they're back, starting in the UK in September, with more events to follow. I speak to Fully Charged founder and host Robert Llewellyn, TV actor and presenter and Red Dwarf cult hero, and also the presenter of Scrapheap Challenge, which many of you will be familiar with. And my good friend Dan Ceasar, who's now the CEO and actually recently a presenter on Fully Charged, to look at what we can expect at this event. And as I say, looking forward to other international events that are up and coming. We'll share a bit of that information as well. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hey, good morning. It's great to have you with us, Robert, Dan from Fully Charged.
Thank you very much for inviting us. No, very nice to be here.
Thank you, David.
It's good. I can't tell you, I'm absolutely beside myself that I'm actually going to, within the next couple of weeks, be talking at and attending events, one of which, of course, is Fully Charged live outdoors in Farnborough in the UK. And really keen to hear a little bit more about what's going on there, what people can expect. And I mean, the first two were amazing, and I'm sure there's even more going on this year, so we're keen to hear about that. But before we do, I mean, our audience is probably cross over to a small extent, Robert, but you started the Fully Charged channel back in 2010.
Yeah.
Thinking back then, a couple of things really. One of which, did you foresee, or how surprised are you at how far both technology has come in that time since you started those first episodes with, I think, probably you and a phone?
Yes.
In terms of how technology's evolved. Well, let's start with that one. So, did you really think you'll get to a point where there was EV mass adoption going on?
No, I think I can be perfectly honest. I mean, I thought I could sense, and also for the previous probably 4 or 5 years, I could sense something big was brewing. So, I mean, to put just a very quick bit of backstory, I spent a lot of time in California in the early noughties making British TV series Scrapheap Challenge, the American variant of that, Junkyard Wars. So I spent a lot of time in California with engineers. And when I was doing that, it meant nothing to me. It's on reflection. I can look back and go, oh, because I met all these people that were working on battery management systems, big battery packs, electric drivetrains, energy management systems in software. When people said that, I'm working on battery management systems for software. What? I don't know what you're talking about. Doesn't mean anything. And so on reflection, I can see that there was some seeds were planted then, that then sort of took fruition later. And it was really the understanding of, which happened later on, like in the mid-noughties. I met two amazing people from the Californian Air Resource Board, it's probably Air Resources Board. Anyway, amazing young people, both scientists, who explained the long-term impacts of burning fossil fuel. I mean, they were very much focused on Los Angeles. That was a key area at that time. So we're talking about Los Angeles in the 80s and 90s was one of the most polluted cities on the planet, which is really weird to think back now, because now we think of it, most polluted city, it's going to be in China. This was Los Angeles, modern city, but 2.5 million cars on a massive network of highways that at peak times, catastrophic traffic congestion, a stupid transport system, basically, the private car. And that was what they were doing, was trying to mitigate that impact on, particularly on children and old people. So there were amazing studies of a school that was next to a big highway, the IQ levels, the health of those children, primary schools, this is, young children, and a school up in that Hollywood Hills for very rich people, and it was appalling, the difference. You know, the kids in the school near the highways were really suffering, really high levels of asthma, lots and lots of associated illnesses, and the kids in fresher air were not affected by, you know, all that stuff, which is now, you know, punch in the face obvious. But at the time it was going, oh really? Well, if I drive my really cool muscle car, it has an impact on other people. Because I was driving a really cool muscle car. I was given a loan to a Ford Mustang. It was really cool. It made a really cool sound. And it did about 8 to 10 miles to the gallon. And it was kind of, there was a slow, I mean, I wish I could claim an overnight or realisation. It took years, you know, that I went, oh God, maybe this isn't good. Eventually, so out of that whole process, you know, I came back to the UK, sold my ridiculous, you know, performance Golf R32 and bought a Prius, you know, and that was really the start of that kind of transition. That was sort of be mid-noughties, and you know that, and then understanding why Toyota had made the Prius, which was absolutely down to Californian legislation, which we don't need to go into now. But that, you know, there was a definite political move, and a very popular political move. It was, you know, it was people were elected on the, you know, the premise of them reducing pollution and air pollution in cities in California. So that was where it sort of came from, and it was I think a numerous little switches. One of which, you know, I think it's only fair to acknowledge them, was Top Gear. Was that Top Gear did a particular show in, I think, 2009, where they reviewed the Tesla Roadster, which by then I'd driven. And it's so interesting because these things come back again and again. The hydrogen fuel cell Honda Clarity, which the two cars they tested, and they said in this show, obviously the future is going to be hydrogen because that's much easier to use. You just fill it like a petrol car, and it's all this nonsense with batteries that you're going to have to throw them away, because that was our experience of batteries then. You have a rubbish Sanyo laptop in 2009. What happens? The battery falls to bits, or, you know, it wears out. So our experience of batteries was relatively negative, and a very easy, simplistic piece of populist, you know, analysis, which, of course, our wonderful hero, Mr. J. Clarkson Esquire, local farmer to me, you know, he can jump at that at any opportunity. And I just think that is, so the surprise for me then is, say, 2010, clearly everyone who watched the BBC agreed with him. Hydrogen was the future and battery cars were just a silly joke, which is sort of what kind of galvanised me to possibly contradict that. And then if you come back to 2021, you know, there are now there's actually only two potentially highly expensive and impossible to fuel hydrogen fuel cell cars on the market, and 80 battery electric cars with a massive electric charging network, which is expanding at unbelievable rates. And the adoption of electric cars is, you know, as we've seen, and I mean all the manufacturers are aware of it, that's going up really, really fast, and diesel and petrol sales are falling. You know, so I don't think I could have seen it. I couldn't. I can't see the future. Unlike lots of people who comment on YouTube and Twitter, everybody tell me they've been there. They've been to the future. They can see what's happening. It's all hydrogen.
Don't you just love Twitter and YouTube response? No, listen, when I started in Cleantech back in 2007, it was very much focused on solar, and Dan clearly has been around the renewables block, which is where we first came to meet, talking about renewables way back when. And I did see, I'd like to say, you know, that solar would absolutely be phenomenally disruptive, and you know, again, it's something which people have predicted against, and time again has proved people wrong. But I didn't really see the battery thing for many years, and obviously, and subsequently, obviously, electric vehicles only work on the premise of the battery. So all this has really changed, and I think there's firstly, you know, technology since that time, 2010 to now, is just phenomenally in terms of cost, performance, energy density. All this stuff has gone astronomical growth, exponential growth. However, if we divert quickly to look at policy support and the recent IPCC report, you know, whilst it wasn't surprising, it's still shocking to those of us who live this stuff day in and day out. I think that's really one of the challenges. I mean, I don't know how you responded, how you guys feel, you know, given that we dedicate so much of our time to trying to solve this problem the best way we can in our own little way. And then you get faced with these headlines of code red.
Yeah,
and it's like,
I mean, I wanted Dan to respond to this as well, but I mean, it is it's been one of my sort of low-level anxieties about fully charged is that we're focused on the large, substantial boulder that is the electric car market and the technology within that. And we're going, look at this, it's amazing, these things are happening on this huge boulder. That huge boulder has rolled off a mountain the size of the Himalayas, which is the challenge ahead of us, in terms of weaning ourselves off fossil fuel. Because, I mean, essentially, however we do that, that is the job of the next 2 generations, is how do we stop burning these fuels to do all the things we need to do. And I'm sure in 100 years' time, we still will be burning some fossil fuels. But without any hesitation, it's really painfully obvious, it will be a fraction of what we do today. That we are developing technologies that are cheaper, cleaner, longer lasting, more sustainable, easier to recycle. The list goes on. And they are going to be an economic draw. And I think that is the real critical thing that is becoming more obvious, is that it's the draw it's a draw rather than a push. It's that there are people that want to change and that want to use different technologies. That is a push up from the bottom. That is effectively a draw down from the top. We're going, give us an electric car. No, have the diesel one. No, I don't want the diesel one. I want the electric one. What about the plug-in hybrid? No, I don't want that. I want the electric one. We hear this constantly, this battle so that eventually those people at the top who are telling us diesel's clean, use a plug-in hybrid, all the con jobs of self-charging hybrids, really offensive nonsense, they're not succeeding. And that's what I sort of pray and I push for them not succeeding. But I think that that it has become such a topic now that people are aware of it. And there is an interesting thing I heard yesterday, which was when you meet people, socially now, they go, oh, God, I'm sorry. I had it last night. Feel so bad. Came in a diesel. And you go, well, yeah, all right, don't worry about it. Well, our next car will be electric. People are aware of it. Even people who 5 years ago would have totally poo-pooed any alternative and say it just doesn't work. It's never going to work. Yeah. They are now...
It's almost like turning up saying, only smoke 10 a day now.
I've cut right down. I only smoke filters. Because I mean, as an ex-smoker, I absolutely get that. That is and I think that is the other flip side I'm trying to keep in check myself, is that there was a period of about 5 years as an ex-smoker where I would walk past people smoking in the street and think it was utterly disgusting. The smell was, and even if I wouldn't say anything, but I'd be go, ugh, they're disgusting. How could they do that? After I'd been doing it for 25 years quite happily. And I'm just worried, I don't want to do that with people who still drive diesels. They didn't make the diesel. It wasn't their idea. They don't support the decisions of the fossil industry. It's not their fault.
It can be fairly tribal things. I'm going to move on to bring Dan in before he falls asleep. But
I'm used to not getting the word in, he says jokingly.
But interestingly, I know that recently you've done the homes series on fully charged amount of technology, which related to home rather than the vehicle, which is really great. And I know that that's where your sort of history lies in terms of heating in particular, which is one of those big unaddressed areas that really is a challenge that needs to be addressed and addressed quickly. And so again, you and I have known each other for some time. We've been battling as best as we can. And how have you found the last few weeks of looking at what's gone on in the world, which is just catastrophic? And it's that yin and yang of there's so much good stuff going on. You want to be really optimistic because there is so much good stuff going on, and we're going to leave on to the event where there's so much good stuff to be seen. But it has been an interesting few weeks.
I think so, and I think obviously the IPCC report Monday just gone, and it was really interesting to look at that, and actually that had quite an impact on me seeing that written down in black and white, but no more so than actually seeing a lot of these crises, extreme weather events kind of unfold. But occasionally even I can be kind of, how can we science our way out of this? And I absolutely think we're very fortunate. We get the ringside seat on all these different technologies. And to me, it's clear that technically we can science our way out of these problems. In fact, we know we could probably write it down on a fag packet to continue the analogy. We could write down what we should be deploying right now. And it's just, I don't think the government or governments around the world necessarily understand that. And I think one of the things that we crossed paths many times over the years was I set up an energy storage alliance about 5 or 6 years ago. And if you think about what the lithium-ion battery has done, particularly in the last 5, 6, 7 years in terms of decreasing cost and increase in density, how can politicians who are not in the sector keep up with that? And journalists, by the way, how can they? And actually, they're obviously clearly not listening, sadly, to Leaders in Cleantech podcast or watching enough Fully Charged. And, without wishing to bash the UK government in particular, all governments, I think, have their blind spots on this. In UK government, I think the Transport Minister has an electric car, but none of the others do.
Yeah.
And you'll know full well, until you've driven one, experienced one, lived with one for a little bit, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm afraid that is to be brutal. So it would be nice if let's get a few of them in electric cars, that's what I'm saying, as quickly as possible, because I think that might start to shift the narrative. But they are surrounded typically by establishment companies, establishment lobbyists. And that's obviously difficult. So where we would say, look, wind, solar and batteries all the way, they might be going, yeah, well, some of that, but also hydrogen and CCS. And we'd be going, well, that has a role
clean
to play,
coal.
But let's get as much wind, solar and batteries out there as possible. And to us, to anyone who's probably listening to this, who's in your audience, it's fairly obvious, but to politicians still, I think they are out of date. And things will continue to change, and in fact, change will continue to accelerate. That's the problem, isn't it? With all of this stuff, solid state hasn't happened just yet, but battery advancements are coming, right? And lithium-ion is just improving, and charge times and everything is getting quicker and quicker and quicker. So, at the moment, I think it is, if politicians are career politicians and they just hop from post to post, I think that's problematic in energy and transport, because I think it's such a fast-moving, specialised area. So I'd love it if Robert was in charge, or you were in charge, David, or I were in charge.
Well, it would be such a great place.
It would be.
You wouldn't love it if I was in charge. It would be a mess. I'd be constantly coming out of number 10. What did I say I was going to do? Oh, God, I was going to invade somewhere. I forgot. Sorry.
Where's the cat? Well, I'm going to try and segue quickly back to something you said, Robert, and then obviously talk a little bit about the events in Farnborough, because I think what's really interesting now, and what's been good, if you can say anything has been good from the catastrophic events that have happened in the IPCC report, is that even more so people are waking up, and that bottom-down drive that says, no, actually, we're not going to put up with clean coal, we're not going to put up with, let's just transition to a slightly cleaner diesel engine. It's a case of no. And, as much as we can all berate politicians, and we do, and many of them deserve it, they do have challenges because things are moving quick and it's difficult to keep up. They do have lobbyists in their ears, and it's difficult not to listen to who pays your bills. But equally, they're driven by votes, and if not just young people, oldies like us as well, are all getting on board. And I think that's my optimism, is to such that hopefully, because of what's happened recently, people will stop and there'll be an upswelling. And that's my dodgy segue into the Fully Charged live events. Because the first one we planned, or you guys planned, I turned up at, and we were expecting, I don't know, you can share with me, but it was just phenomenal. There was just such an upswelling of people, and it was like literally on our stack, shoulder to shoulder. I think that shows, not just testament to the channel, but to the the upswell that's going on.
To the subject, yes, the topic in a way is what drove that crowd. I mean, that was, and I've got to give Dan his due, because he did have to push me. I mean, I was very sceptical. I was going, no one's going to come to, particularly Silverstone. I mean, because I grew up quite near this, I knew what a pain in the arse it was to get there. It's not exactly on easy to use public transport network. It's a very car oriented place. But actually, it did work, and I have to, I acknowledge that to Dan. He did an incredible job. And that first day, that's a very strong memory. The first day we let everyone in, I was just, I was frightened. I just went, this is terrifying. There's so many people that had queued up outside, and we're all so happy, and we're all cheering, and it's like, God, this is insane. And we more than doubled that size the second year. And I guess, I don't know where we are now down, but we're certainly bigger than this one will be the biggest we've done yet, and it is quite a challenging prospect for just personally, on a purely personal level, because it's such a big event. It's such a responsibility to have as well, to make it work, to make people have a good time when you're there. It's an incredible job and an incredible team that Dan's put together that puts that, because I have very little input into the day-to-day organising of it, which is a really good thing. That benefits the audience experience, without any question.
Before we go into Farmer again, because obviously I spoke at the event in Austin in Texas. I think that was one of the things. You're in Texas, big Republican and fossil fuel heartland. Yeah. And again, there was a massive upswell of attendance there. Even in what I know Austin's a little bit different, but or weird, as they like to say, but it's still Texas.
Yes.
And, as much as I did end up in an F-150 at one point, I tried to avoid it. I would also end up in the Rivian, which was nice. So, but just to the point that there's that much upswell, and clearly now you've moved to Farnborough from Silverstone, home of the air show.
Yes.
Hopefully there'll be some fuel cell and some biofuel aircraft to be seen. But what's the kind of gist for this year, Dan? What have you put together? How's it going to differ? And going back to the points of what people can see, touch, and feel, and hear, of course. What are the key exciting things for the show coming up?
Well, it will be bigger, quite a lot bigger, and I guess we have to be really grateful to the fact that we're in a growth sector, because right now growth isn't ubiquitous. So we're very, very fortunate in that respect. It's been interesting because of vaccines and such like. Probably 4 months ago, confidence of whether it would take place was kind of at 70-80%, and not definite, but obviously as people got double jabbed, the increased confidence went up. And we've always said this show will be outside. So when we got to Farnborough first time, we looked at it and went, oh, look at that lovely exhibition hall. It's beautiful. 12,000 metres, no pillars, brand new. Ooh, isn't that amazing? And ironically, we are pretty much not using that. There'll be a couple of things outdoors, but largely the show is outdoors. But as you say, they have the air show there, so there's quite a lot of outdoor space. And we think that's the right move for this year's show. So we've got a ton of space to display things. I think some of the key highlights are things like test drives. Typically, when people get in an electric car and try it, they're normally not far away from buying one as a result. So we'll let the technology speak for itself. An exhibition, I think, of getting on for like 200 participants. So again, quite a bit bigger. And then my favourite bit is the live talks. So I think there's 50 live sessions over the 3 days. Every day is different, and that'll have people like Robert, Jack Scala, Maddie Moat, Helen Chersky, even me doing a couple of the heating ones, talking to experts on stages. And for me, as someone who'd been passionate about energy for a long time, when we did Silverstone 2019, Robert did a session on batteries, and we could get about 1,000 people into that room at a push. And I remember looking around and every seat was full. It was standing room only, all around the sides of that room. And I was thinking, batteries are the new rock and roll. That's what I remember thinking at that time. And I was very proud because, we've been talking about it for a long, long time. And it really, the live sessions are just something else. You come away with so much knowledge. And then you can go around and have some fun and talk to all the energy companies, the clean technology companies, the bike companies, boards, scooters. There's the commercial vehicle zone there as well. So it really is. I mean, as an energy geek, it's a great shame we don't really get to walk around it much. Actually,
will you have any of those really super self-charging hybrids there?
There are no.
It's amazing technology.
No. I've heard it's fantastic technology. You don't have to plug it in.
Well, I mean, our audience are really,
very sussed about that.
And actually, if you put one of those along, there probably would be pitchforks and riots. I think they really gravitate towards pure EVs in particular.
Actually, it would be quite good fun to have an old Prius on a stand with a huge thing saying self-charging hybrid just for the bands.
It would be like the Burning Man conference.
I'll tell the team. Shall I, Robert? I'll tell the team.
No, totally.
I mean, I'm not as involved in it as before. I write the program of content, but we have a team that does it, and it's too big for us now. That is a testament to where that show's got to, and no, we can't wait, because you mentioned Twitter and YouTube earlier. I mean, I've had some brilliant conversations and made some brilliant friendships with people I've never met on Twitter.
Yes,
but equally, it can be at times slightly conflict-ridden area. And YouTube comments similarly, people only really come along to kind of have a bit of a moan or you misspelt this or whatever. So getting feedback from real humans is
it's very nice.
And it's so overdue, isn't it? You know. So that's probably something we're really looking forward to. But there's loads there in terms of new cars, converted cars. I mean, anything that's electrified, and all the clean technologies there as well. So if you want to buy a heat pump, or if you want to, look at, a thermal battery, all that kind of stuff is there as well. So really exciting. And then probably for your audience, it's worth saying that we do actually have a business day on the Friday as well. And we've got Michael Liebreich, who I'm sure you know well, I'm sure your audience knows well, as a keynote for that. We've also got Arrival, the Banbury-based electric van and bus company. They're keynoting as well for that. So on the Friday there's a business day too. And in a way, why do we do the business day? Well, we do the business day because we quite like business leaders walking around the consumer show and going, "Oh my God,
there's a lot going on." Yeah,
this is a bit more advanced than we realised. Yeah. And then they go back into their office and say, maybe we should accelerate our fleet to EVs or whatever their kind of thing is. So for us, we absolutely cannot wait for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of September. And I'm also quite excited about the 6th. It's just going to be very well.
Big sleep.
Have a lay down. Robert's
I see.
So, oh my God, thinking another day.
Have you got this in my diary? What happens on the 6th?
We've added another day. No, we haven't. I think we're all looking forward to getting through. It's been so long overdue,
Yeah. Jonas, I think what's really critical, and we've talked about this before, is we live in a bit of a clean tech bubble.
Yeah.
Most of our audiences do, and it's all we discuss and see and feel and touch all day, every day. Yeah. And it brought home to me, it's about a year ago now, and possibly slightly longer because it was an actual event pre-COVID, but I was invited to speak at an event which was not anything to do with clean technology, but transportation as a broad thing, just transport. And I was absolutely gobsmacked at just how nobody in the audience knew anything about electrification of transport at all, apart from a few people who might have seen a Prius or 1 or 2 might have seen a EV.
David, just to understand, were these people who worked in what we would broadly describe as the transport industry? It wasn't the general public.
Yeah, logistics. Wow. No, it was logistics and transport people. Wow. And they were talking about, do we invest in hydrogen trucks? Do we invest in the latest diesel trucks, kind of thing? And I'm saying no. Get batteries, please. Yeah. But going back to the point, we all live in this little bubble. And I think what's really, really critical, and you've touched on this, not just for consumers, but going back to the business leaders and fleet leaders, is to see and touch and feel this stuff. And to realise, actually, it is nicer, cleaner, cheaper, better to run, all those kind of things that we know. But we only know because we live and breathe it every day. And that's what I found is at the event, there were so many young people there. Obviously, it's very much a family-orientated event, certainly on the weekend. And you're just exposing young people and old to stuff they just aren't aware of. So it's not, for me, it's nice for us geeks to go and meet each other and slap each other on the back and give each other a bit of a rah-rah, because we all need that from time to time. But it's those people who are not engaged that become engaged because of events like this.
I think something's changed in the last year and a half, 2 years, in that before, actually, all the promotion we did for Fully Charged Live 1 and 2 was all through the channel and through our Twitter feed and stuff like that, but it was broadly all through Fully Charged, and we didn't really spend a penny anywhere else. We might have given Mark Zuckerberg like 500 quid or something, but I'm not sure he noticed. So we did it all through the channel, and the reason for that was obviously we have this audience, but actually this year we've slightly changed tack. Obviously we're promoting it through the channel, but for the first time, as you'll know, most people you speak to are going, I'm sorry I came in that diesel, my next car might be electric, and they're much more open-minded to it. So this time, for example, we're actually doing some sort of local radio advertising, and got some other things planned. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes the blend of people that attend. Some people might not have even heard of the mighty Robert Llewellyn. They might not clue who is this guy.
There's plenty of highly intelligent, well-informed people who haven't got a clue who I am, and they're right.
So that'll be interesting, because then you'll get some fully charged people come onto the stand and probably know more about charging than some of the car companies.
Yes,
exactly. You'll get some other people on the stand who won't know a thing.
No.
So that will be fascinating to watch. But yeah, I think the genius of what Robert has done with the channel is created something that pulls consumers through, because David and I must have been together to about 7 million industry events.
Yes,
over the years, where industry talks to itself, gives itself a pat on the back, reassures itself that it's going in the right direction. But the trick has always been, how do we get consumers engaged in this? The combination of the electric car being the aspirational, emotive product that it is, and then channels like Fully Charged, and there's lots of other great YouTube channels out there, of course, as well, lots of other podcasts, has really started to create some consumer pull. And so, we really cannot wait. I can't wait to talk to all of our old friends who are on their third electric car, and they've got a Zappy and they've got solar panels, and they're just working out what to do next. But wouldn't it be nice if we can convert a few more people from a standing start into?
Yeah, those are the people I love when I stop and plug in. You plug in, or you get people to drive past and see you when you drive plugged in, and they start asking conversations, and people are getting enough. That's the kind of the fun stuff, because first of all, I have to stop myself from just launching it into an explanation of
Let's go back to fundamentals.
In the last 15 years.
Let's get a basic understanding of the kilowatt hour. That's me walking across a supermarket chasing a poor man who stupidly asked me. You've got to do it in small doses, isn't it? But I mean, I think the big picture challenge for the human race, which is what you kind of started all this out on, David, is it's so important now and I think this is a shift that we've made on the show, and it wasn't that conscious, but because it's become such a colossally important topic, I didn't ever mention climate change or the climate in Fully Charged for the first probably 8 years. It just wasn't a topic that I ever referred to. I definitely talked about local area air pollution, children breathing in toxic fumes, plenty of stuff about what comes out of a tailpipe of a car and how negative that is. But not the climate, and we have started mentioning it, and when you do, you immediately get the kickback from the sort of, I don't know what to call them, people who don't think science is real. I'm going to say they think it's all a plot or whatever. I'm just not interested in them. But the fact is that we've kind of had to talk about it's not even the elephant, it's the elephant herd in the room. It's such a big topic. And then you look at the sort of the combination of excitement and dread that is connected with that, that we have no choice. We have to make these changes on a colossal scale around the world. And in fact, I've just been listening to a Michael Liebrecht podcast about the hydrogen debate and how hydrogen comes back and back and back, and how it does have an important role. It's not like we're not going to use hydrogen. It's fantastic technologies connected with it. But that it is this, the confusions that you can sow, if you're a clever lobbyist, to delay change. And there's no question that hydrogen is very unfairly, it's not fair on the technology, but hydrogen has been used to delay change. So how can we get people to buy diesel for another 10 years, tell them that hydrogen is the future, and then they stop worrying about it, and they don't, we all know this. But that stuff is a very difficult topic to discuss with someone in the car park when you've plugged your car in and they want to know how much range it's got. Well, let me tell you about the hydrogen economy myth.
Jumping back in terms of, you touched on this, Dan, already about the talks, because again, I'm privileged. I'll be talking, I think, on the Saturday and have done in the past. But you've got some proper experts, people like, and go back to the science. You've got scientists like Helen Chersky, and you've got some great presenters like Maddie Moat, who's BAFTA-winning presenter, all that kind of stuff. So there's some really interesting stuff, and I think that's what, again, I was trying to perhaps get across, is that whilst electric vehicles are, as we said before, sort of kind of a great gateway drug to get people into our conversation, It'd be great to hear how many cars you've got there, because that is a topic. But also I'd like to perhaps maybe just in closing look at some of the other areas of either technologies and or talks that you've got, because again we have both audiences who are in other aspects of clean technology, and it's not all about vehicles either as a topic, but also of course for fully charged. Bear in mind the heating or the house episodes that you've been doing recently. So firstly, I guess, how many cars can people go and see and test drive, because there are lots of people that are motivated by that, but what are perhaps some of the other topic areas where people can come and learn and listen and find out more about?
So I think we've got about we're running a few thousand test drives. So I think we've got something like 100 electric cars going out on test drive. I think we've got, including classics and conversions and other electric vehicles, probably, I'm talking about things with 4 wheels, because we've got lots of things with 2 wheels as well, probably 150 different things, I would say, electric vehicles, from, I think, a 1906 electric vehicle, right up to some stuff that is more sort of concept-driven, normal cars, and then also there was an episode where Robert got in a skid steer loader, and there was an episode where Robert got on a tractor. We tried to incorporate all the things we might see in the channel as well. So we'll have a rival there, we'll have Volta trucks there. So there's a fantastic group of things to see. But as you rightly say, it's all about energy and transport. And so we've got, I think some really interesting sessions, Obviously, when we write them kind of to maybe pique people's interest. But one of the first ones we've got is, that great debate: how far ahead is Tesla, and can it be caught? Which is always an interesting one to kind of open conversations. We've got things like, how can we get governments more involved? Are the car companies going fast enough? But then also, loads of things about heating, home technology. Jack Scarlett's going to bring his sort of automotive knowledge to bear, and I'm really wishing I had in front of me the list of all the different sessions. So just talk to Robert for a second.
We'll post them, of course, on the episode page. We'll post links so people can go and see exactly what's happening and hopefully buy tickets. It'd be great to see, obviously, some of my audience there as well. So I'm sure some will certainly be rocking up. But it's a super exciting event, and just again getting out to meet. I do remember, Robert, seeing a number of episodes when we were deep in lockdown of how many different ways can you do things in your back garden.
The garden studio was in great demand at the time. Yeah, I mean, the other one that I just think is, which I know we're covering, is sort of the materials thing, because that's a great topic of where do materials come from, how do we have enough, all those questions, because that's the thing I hear constantly, and you just think it's just that's a kind of perfect example of FUD. If you're spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt, you don't need any facts. You don't even need a sentence. You just go, batteries. That's all you need to say.
Mining.
And people go, or mining. Like, we're not mining stuff to build a diesel car. No, that just comes out of, what? Where is it?
The ferries bring that, Robert. Yeah. I've had that. No, we won't go into that.
No, let's not go into that conversation.
No. So go on.
Well, to that end, we've got things which really kind of look at batteries and where the materials are going to come from. The ethical nature of those things. We talk about FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and how to fight it. We've even got a session called "Kids Can Change the World," which is talking to youngsters as well. Frankly, we're obviously labelled very much as a car channel often, but obviously you often hear us say, actually, there should be fewer cars, lighter cars, more shared cars. And we talk about walking and cycling and electric bikes and public transport and those things as well. Because if stop burning stuff and decarbonisation is the heart of the channel, then it's about looking at all of that and saying to people, you might have 2 cars. Do you really need that? Or is that going to change over time? So, I mean, in terms of sessions, we also talk about electric flight now, which is a really exciting topic, but also things like food miles, disruptors, vehicle to grid. The kind of the list goes on. The science behind the energy transition. I think we get Helen to host that one, and not Robert, I think.
Well, I can't understand why. I'm sure. No. I'm very pleased.
Maybe a scientist would be.
Yeah, but actually, just very briefly, I mean, out of all the things, like 10 years ago when I started Fully Charged, I could fantasize and imagine that possibly some levels of shipping could be electrified, that all road transport could be. It never even occurred to me. I didn't even think oh, what about aeroplanes? Oh, no, that won't work. I didn't even think that. And now we're seeing, and I've seen one, it's extraordinary, proper full-size passenger planes, 100% battery electric aircraft. Who ever would have thought of that? And I think, they're going to be in our lifetimes. And when I say that, for me, that is quite soon, because I'm quite old. But, I will definitely see in my lifetime, you could fly from city to Paris to London on an electric plane, which is like, that is unimaginable that's happening.
It's phenomenal, isn't it? Yeah, I had Zero Avia, Val Miftakov on my podcast some time ago, and again, I know that they were at Farnborough actually recently doing some stuff with BA. So, I should say it's phenomenal. I mean, that's one of the things that we talk about, and I'm speaking at Eco Summit in Berlin the week after, and, pre-pandemic, we all travelled far too much.
Yes.
And we justified it to ourselves by offsetting planting trees, which we do, and that's good and worthy, but it doesn't solve the problem. Just going back to your point, Dan, about just doing less. What's really interesting, Steve, member of my team, they recently, two diesel family, sold two diesel cars, got one Tesla Model 3, and they're coping. I mean, they've got a kid. All the stuff you think, oh, I've got children, I can't do it. And we all make excuses for ourselves, but it's great to see, and there'll be many at the show, of course, but people like Steve have just like transformed, and it's not that difficult, really. Once you've got over it.
Yeah, it's not a big sacrifice to drive a Tesla, to be perfectly to mouth a cliche. Oh my God, I've really suffered by transferring to driving a Tesla. No, okay, I'll shut up.
Yeah, no, he's very excited. I think his kid's even more excited.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But anyway, listen, there's so much to be done, so much to see. Really looking forward to meeting you guys down there and to getting involved. We'll put some links to the event on the episode page. Of course, to share amongst our audience. So those of you who are in the UK, if you can, please get down to Farnborough. Great to see you. Briefly, though, we've got an international audience. Dan, I know that obviously we had Austin in the past. What's the plans for Fully Charged Live shows? I know we're a little bit cautious because of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, but what potentially is coming down the line?
Well, September 6th, we sleep. I think...
Put that in your diary.
I've got that in the diary.
End of October and early November, there will be some COP-related activities from Fully Charged, I'm sure. So we're working on that in the background. And then in March next year, we go to Amsterdam, Fully Charged Live Europe. Really excited about that. Yeah. Just leaving the country excites us right now. And then the plan is to go to Austin in April 23rd and 24th. We're pretty confident we'll be able to do that, but we obviously need a bit of fly-in. And certainly Rob and I are, again, desperate to get out of the country and planning to go over there in the fall, so we can start the ball rolling on the American show. But Austin's just incredible, right? Because you've got Tesla there now. Rivian's stuff that they're doing is incredible. Spoke to a British firm yesterday who are also setting up out there. I don't think I should name them. I don't think I'm supposed to know. So there's some really, really exciting things. And then the plan is to do Australia towards the back end of next year as well. But yeah, unfortunately, COVID caveats do apply. Yeah. And we have to just think that through. But hopefully everyone will get a couple of shots in the arm over the next year or so, and kind of that sort of thing will resume. But frankly, we want to fly to those with purpose. I don't want to necessarily run those actually in the future. I'd like some American to run the one in Austin, someone Australian to run the one in Australia, and so we don't necessarily need to go. We just beam Robert in.
A hologram.
Star Trek's brilliant, by the way. It's much better than Red Dwarf. But ultimately, if we can get people excited. When you were at Austin, David, and we said to people, "How far have you driven?" And people have driven from the tip of the northern
incredible distances,
Canada, and they've flown in from the Dominican Republic, and they've driven electric as well.
The Tesla Supercharger Highway has been
extraordinary. So we can't wait to do that sort of thing again. So we'll. The dates are set that you can buy tickets now, but obviously in the modern day world, sometimes tickets roll over onto a different date. But we're very, very hopeful. But September the 6th is a day of rest for me and Robert. And then
we're back on it.
Back to a self-charging hybrid on September the 7th.
But the 3rd, 4th, 5th in Farnborough, it'd be amazing to see lots of people. I'm sure it's going to be hugely populous. I hope you ordered enough pies this time, vegan pies.
Yes, there's a lot of vegan food. Yeah, and there's a lot of food. Yes.
We'll all survive.
Yeah.
But, listen, guys, great to talk to you. Really looking for well done for everything that you guys are doing, and really looking forward to meeting, speaking, and engaging with, I should say, real humans in a real situation.
Great stuff. No, thank you very much, David. Thank you.
Thank you so much.